How can a simple trip with another man lead to my husband ending our marriage in front of everyone? What began as my plan to make him jealous ended with a knock on the door and a stack of legal papers in my hand. Can I really call him the villain when he just followed the rules? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The notification sound from my phone felt like a small victory. Another like, another comment, another person validating what I already knew. I was still attractive, still desirable, still worth someone's attention. Unlike my husband, who barely looked up from his laptop when I walked into our living room, wearing the new dress I'd bought specifically for tonight. "Caleb," I said, holding my phone at just the right angle to catch the light. "Look at this photo Rachel posted from her girls' trip to Vegas. Doesn't it look amazing?" He glanced over for maybe half a second. His fingers kept typing, the sound filling the silence between us like a wall. I sat down on the couch, deliberately choosing the spot where the lamp would highlight my features. I was thinking maybe I should plan something like that. Get away for a weekend. Have some fun for once. "That sounds nice, Ottilia." Still typing, still not really listening. The familiar frustration bubbled up in my chest. When was the last time he'd actually looked at me? Really looked at me, the way he used to when we first met. Back then, he'd drop everything just to hear about my day. Now I felt invisible in my own home. I opened Instagram and scrolled to the photo Rafa had sent me earlier, him at some rooftop bar in Miami, looking effortlessly handsome with the city lights behind him. He'd captioned it, "Missing good company," with a winking emoji. The kind of attention I craved, the kind of excitement that made me feel alive again. "Actually," I said, my voice taking on a casual tone that didn't match the racing of my heart, "I might go to Miami. Raphael mentioned he's there for work this week." Now Caleb's typing slowed. Just slightly, but I noticed. "Raphael? You remember him? The social media consultant I met at that conference last month. Really nice guy, very professional." I emphasized the last word, though we both knew our text conversations had been anything but professional lately. Caleb saved his document and finally turned to face me. His expression was unreadable, which somehow made it worse than if he'd been angry. "When were you thinking of going?" "This weekend, just a quick trip, 2 days, maybe 3. I watched his face for any sign of jealousy, any indication that he still cared enough to fight for me. "Unless you have some objection." He was quiet for a long moment, and I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this would finally wake him up, make him realize what he was about to lose. "No objection," he said finally. "You're an adult. You can make your own decisions." The disappointment hit me like a physical blow. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Ottilia?" "I want you to care." The words burst out before I could stop them. "I want you to act like you give a damn about what I do or where I go or who I'm with." Caleb closed his laptop and set it aside. When he looked at me again, there was something different in his eyes. Not anger, not jealousy, something colder. "You want me to care about you going to Miami with another man?" "He's a friend, a good friend who actually listens when I talk, who makes me feel like I matter." I stood up, pacing to the window. "When's the last time you asked about my day? When's the last time you planned anything special for us? You come home, you work, you sleep. That's it. That's our marriage. I work to support our family. I thought that mattered to you." "Money isn't everything, Caleb. I need more than just a paycheck and a roof over my head. I need someone who sees me, who appreciates me." "And Raphael sees you." The way he said it made my cheeks burn. "Yes, he does. He thinks I'm interesting. He thinks I'm beautiful. He makes me laugh." Caleb nodded slowly, like he was processing information. "I see. That's it? I see?" I turned back to face him. "Aren't you going to fight for me? Aren't you going to try to stop me from going?" Why would I stop you? You've clearly already made up your mind. The calm in his voice infuriated me more than shouting would have. You know what your problem is? You're boring. You're safe and predictable and boring, and you expect me to just accept that this is all there is. Well, I won't. I deserve better. Something flickered across his face then. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. You're right, he said quietly. You deserve exactly what you choose. I stared at him, waiting for more, but he just picked up his laptop and headed for his office. I have some work to finish. Good night, Ottilia. After he left, I sat alone in the living room, my phone buzzing with notifications. Rafa had sent another message. Book the flight, beautiful. Life's too short to waste on people who don't appreciate what they have. I opened the airline app before I could second-guess myself. Miami, this weekend. 2 nights at the Fontainebleau. I added Rafa's name to the reservation and felt a thrill of rebellion, of finally taking control of my own happiness. Before going to bed, I posted a cryptic status update. Finally doing what makes me happy. No regrets, nor her new chapter. The likes started coming in immediately. Friends, co-workers, even some of Caleb's friends. Everyone except Caleb himself. I found him in his office, marking something on his desk calendar. From the doorway, I could see him write, downtown, 10:30 in Monday's slot. What's that? I asked. He looked up, his expression neutral. Just an appointment. What kind of appointment? Nothing that concerns you. He capped his pen and closed the calendar. Have a good trip, Ottilia. I hope you find what you're looking for. The dismissal in his tone should have bothered me, but I was too excited about Miami to care. Finally, I was going to have some fun. Finally, I was going to feel alive again. If Caleb wanted to sulk about it, that was his choice. The Miami heat hit me like a wall as I stepped off the plane, but it felt like freedom. Rafa was waiting at baggage claim, looking even better in person than in his photos. Tanned, confident, wearing a linen shirt that probably cost more than Caleb spent on clothes in 6 months. There's my beautiful travel companion, he said, pulling me into a hug that lasted just long enough to feel dangerous. Ready to show this city what we're made of? The hotel was everything I'd dreamed of. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a view of the ocean that made me gasp. Rafa had upgraded us to a suite, claiming his company was paying for everything. Perks of being indispensable, he said with that easy grin that made my stomach flutter. Now, let's get you settled and then hit the town. I have reservations at this incredible rooftop place. I spent an hour getting ready, choosing a dress that hugged every curve, doing my makeup until I looked like the woman I used to be before marriage, and routine dulled my edges. When I emerged from the bathroom, Rafa whistled appreciatively. Caleb is an idiot for letting you out of his sight, he said, and I felt a surge of vindication. The rooftop restaurant was exactly the kind of place Caleb would have called overpriced and pretentious, all mood lighting and craft cocktails, and beautiful people laughing too loudly. It was perfect. Let's document this, I said, pulling out my phone. I want everyone to see what a real night out looks like. Rafa was a natural in front of the camera. He knew all the right angles, how to position himself so the city lights created the perfect backdrop. We took dozens of photos, clinking glasses, gazing into each other's eyes, his arm around my waist as we posed against the railing. Tag your husband, Rafa suggested as I edited the best shots. Let him see what he's missing. I hesitated for just a moment, then typed Caleb's handle. The photos were innocent enough, just 2 friends having dinner, right? But the way Rafa was looking at me, the way my smile seemed brighter than it had in months, told a different story. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. Wow, Ottilia, living your best life. Who's the hottie? Goals, you look amazing. And then, from my co-worker Jessica, doesn't your husband mind you posting pics with other guys? I felt a spike of irritation. Why should Caleb mind? He was the one who couldn't be bothered to take me anywhere nice. who acted like my happiness was an inconvenience. "My husband trusts me," I replied, "and he knows I deserve to have fun." But as the evening wore on and more photos went up, us dancing at a club, sharing dessert at a late-night cafe, walking along the beach with our shoes in our hands, I kept checking my phone for Caleb's response. A like, a comment, even an angry text. Anything to show he cared. Nothing. "You keep checking that phone," Rafa observed as we sat on his hotel room balcony, sharing a bottle of champagne he'd ordered from room service. "Still hoping to make him jealous?" "I don't know what you mean," I lied, but Rafa just laughed. "Come on, beautiful. I know what this is. You think if you make him see what he's losing, he'll start appreciating you again." He moved closer on the couch, his hand finding mine. "But maybe the question isn't whether he'll fight for you. Maybe it's whether you still want him to." His fingers traced patterns on my palm, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Desired, wanted, chosen. When he leaned in to kiss me, I didn't pull away. The photo he took afterward, both of us flushed and laughing, was the one that would change everything. But in that moment, dizzy with champagne and attention and the intoxicating feeling of being wanted, I didn't care about consequences. "Post it," I said recklessly. "Post all of them." My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Lydia. "Ottilia, what are you doing? These photos, this isn't you." I deleted the message without responding. Lydia had always been the cautious one, the one who played by the rules and married her college boyfriend, and never took any risks. She wouldn't understand. Another buzz. This time it was a notification from my bank. Password change requested for joint account. Then another. New account opened. Caleb Fenwick, individual account. I stared at the screen, my champagne-soaked brain struggling to process what I was seeing. "Rafa, look at this. What do you think this means?" He glanced at my phone and shrugged. "Sounds like your husband's getting his ducks in a row. Smart man." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means he's protecting his assets. Standard procedure when a marriage is heading south." Rafa's tone was casual, like he was discussing the weather. "Don't worry about it tonight, beautiful. Tomorrow's problems can wait until tomorrow." But the spell was broken. I spent the rest of the night alternating between defiance and a growing unease that I couldn't quite shake. Every notification made my heart race, wondering if this would finally be Caleb reaching out. It never was. By Sunday morning, as I packed my things and prepared to return to reality, I had posted 17 photos and videos from the trip. The last one, taken at the airport, showed me and Rafa embracing goodbye, with the caption, "Some people are worth the risk, no regrets, me, life is short." The flight home felt longer than the one to Miami. I kept thinking about Caleb's expression when I told him about the trip, that strange, cold calm that I couldn't read. Part of me expected him to be waiting at the airport, ready for a fight or a reconciliation, or at least some kind of reaction. But when I got home, the apartment was empty, except for a note on the kitchen counter. "Working late, leftovers in the fridge." C. The guest room bed was made with hospital corners, like someone had been sleeping there. My heart sank as I realized he'd moved out of our bedroom while I was gone. I sat on our couch. My couch, I corrected myself, and scrolled through the weekend's photos one more time. In every single one, I looked happy, radiant even. So why did I feel so hollow? My phone buzzed with a text from Rafa. "Missing you already, beautiful. When can we do this again?" Before I could respond, I heard Caleb's key in the lock. Caleb walked in carrying a stack of folders and barely glanced in my direction. "No, how was your trip?" "No, I missed you." He just nodded like I was a roommate he hadn't seen in a few days and headed straight for his office. "That's it," I called after him. "That's the welcome home I get." He paused in the doorway. "How was Miami?" The question sounded like a formality, like asking about the weather. "It was wonderful. Raphael showed me an amazing time. We went to the most incredible restaurants, saw the city, actually had fun for once." I saw the photos. Something in his tone made my defiance waver. And? And nothing. I'm glad you had fun. He disappeared into his office and closed the door. I stared at the closed door, frustration building in my chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to be angry, jealous, desperate to win me back. Instead, he was treating me like a stranger. The next few days passed in a strange, cold peace. Caleb was polite but distant, like we were co-workers sharing an office space. He slept in the guest room, made his own meals, and spent most of his time behind his office door. When I tried to start conversations, he responded with monosyllables. "We need to talk about this," I said Thursday evening, cornering him in the kitchen. "Talk about what?" "About us. About what's happening here. You can't just ignore me forever." Caleb poured himself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. "I'm not ignoring you. I'm giving you space to figure out what you want." "I want my husband to care that I went away with another man." "You want me to be jealous?" "Yes. I want you to fight for me, to show me that I matter to you." He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. "And if I don't?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean? If I don't fight for you? If I don't get jealous? What then?" I opened my mouth to answer, but found I didn't have one. The silence stretched between us until Caleb nodded, like I'd confirmed something he already knew. "I see," he said quietly. "Well, you'll have your answer soon enough." Before I could ask what he meant, my mother-in-law called to invite us to Sunday dinner. "It's been too long since we've all been together," Doreen said, "and I want to see how you're both doing." The way she emphasized both made me wonder if she'd seen the Miami photos. Caleb's whole family was active on social media, and I hadn't exactly been subtle. Sunday dinner at the Fenwick family's favorite restaurant was usually something I enjoyed. Caleb's parents were good people, and his sister Emma always made me laugh. But this time felt different. The moment we walked in, I could feel the tension. "Ottilia, dear," Doreen said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "You look rested. I heard you took a little vacation." "Just a quick trip to Miami. Sometimes you need to get away, you know." I kept my voice light, but I could feel everyone watching me. "By yourself?" Emma asked innocently. "With a friend, Rafael Jimenez. He's in social media consulting. Very successful, very charming." I glanced at Caleb, but he was studying the menu like it contained the secrets of the universe. "How nice," Doreen said, in a tone that suggested it was anything but. "And Caleb didn't mind you traveling with another man?" "Why should he mind? We trust each other." The lie came easily, but it felt bitter on my tongue. Dinner was an exercise in polite torture. Every conversation seemed to have a double meaning. Every glance felt loaded with judgment. When Emma mentioned her upcoming anniversary, I couldn't help but comment. 10 years together, and you still look at each other like newlyweds. It must be nice to have that kind of passion. Some of us aren't so lucky. I shot a pointed look at Caleb, who continued eating like I hadn't spoken. "Passion isn't everything," Doreen said carefully. "Loyalty, commitment, respect, those matter more in the long run." Easy to say when you're not the one feeling invisible in your own marriage. The words came out sharper than I intended, and the table fell silent. Caleb set down his fork and looked at me for the first time all evening. "I think we should go. We haven't even had dessert yet." "I think we should go," he repeated, his voice perfectly calm, but carrying an undertone that made me shiver. He stood up, kissed his mother's cheek, and headed for the door without looking back. I sat there for a moment, caught between embarrassment and anger, before following him out. In the parking lot, I finally exploded. "What the hell was that? You just abandoned me in there." "You seem to be handling the conversation just fine on your own." "They were judging me. Your whole family was sitting there judging me, and you said nothing." Caleb unlocked the car and got in. I slid into the passenger seat, my heart racing with frustration. "You want to know why I didn't defend you?" he asked as he started the engine. "Because there's nothing to defend. You went to Miami with another man, posted intimate photos for everyone to see, and then came home and complained that I'm not passionate enough. What exactly did you want me to say to my family? I wanted you to stand up for your wife. My wife stood up and left the table 3 days ago in Miami. The quiet devastation in his voice stopped me cold. For a moment, I saw past my own hurt and anger to the man sitting beside me. Really saw him. The way his shoulders slumped, the tightness around his eyes, the careful control he was maintaining. Caleb, Don't. He pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. Just don't. We both know what this is, Ottilia. We both know where this is heading. Let's at least be honest about it. That night, I lay alone in our king-size bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of Caleb moving around in the guest room. My phone buzzed with a text from Rafa. Thinking about you, beautiful. When can I see you again? For the first time since Miami, I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I found myself scrolling through old photos of me and Caleb, our wedding day, anniversaries, quiet moments when we'd been happy. When had we stopped looking at each other like that? When had we become strangers sharing a mortgage? But by morning, the moment of doubt had passed. If Caleb couldn't fight for our marriage, if he was just going to let me slip away without even trying, then maybe we were already over. Maybe it was time to stop pretending otherwise. Monday morning brought a harsh return to reality. At work, I could feel eyes on me from the moment I walked into the office. My Miami photos had apparently been making the rounds, and the whispered conversations that stopped when I approached told me everything I needed to know. Ottilia, my boss Priya called from her office. Could I see you for a moment? I followed her in, my stomach knotting with anxiety. Priya was fair, but strict, and she didn't tolerate anything that reflected poorly on the company. I'm going to be direct, she said, closing the door behind me. Your social media activity over the weekend has generated some discussion among the staff. I was on vacation. What I do on my personal time is your business, absolutely. But when you're posting photos with men who aren't your husband and your relationship status becomes office gossip, it becomes my business too. Priya sat down across from me, her expression serious. I'm not judging your personal choices, but I need you to be aware that this kind of attention can affect your professional reputation. The unfairness of it hit me like a slap. So I'm supposed to live like a nun because people might talk? You're supposed to use good judgment, and right now, people are questioning yours. Priya leaned forward. I'm giving you a friendly warning because I like you and I want you to succeed here. But if this situation escalates, if it starts affecting your work or creating drama in the office, we'll have to have a different conversation. I spent the rest of the day feeling like I was under a microscope. Every interaction felt loaded. Every glance seemed judgmental. By the time I got home, I was ready for a fight. But Caleb wasn't there to fight with. I found him in his office, surrounded by stacks of papers and manila folders. His desk, usually cluttered with the casual chaos of work and life, was now organized with military precision. Everything labeled, everything in its place. What's all this? I asked from the doorway. He looked up briefly. Paperwork. What kind of paperwork? Household stuff, financial records, insurance policies. His tone was maddeningly neutral. Things I've been meaning to organize. I stepped closer and saw that one of the folders was labeled legal documents in his careful handwriting. Another said bank statements, individual accounts. A third, thicker folder was marked evidence, photos, to communications. My blood ran cold. Evidence? Evidence of what? Caleb closed the folder he'd been working on and looked at me directly for the first time in days. You know what? I don't know what you're implying, but I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You went to Miami with another man. You posted intimate photos with him on social media. You've been texting him constantly since you got back. He gestured to my phone, which had buzzed with another message from Rafa. These are facts, not implications. We're friends. I'm allowed to have friends. Of course you are. And I'm allowed to document the dissolution of our marriage. The clinical way he said it made my knees weak. Dissolution? Caleb, you're being dramatic. I went on one trip. You went on a romantic getaway with another man and broadcast it to everyone we know. You came home and complained that I don't fight for you, don't show you passion, don't appreciate you. He stood up and I was struck by how tired he looked. You've made it very clear what you think of our marriage and what you want instead. I want you to care. I want you to show me that I matter to you. By threatening to leave me for someone else, by humiliating me in front of my family, by making our private problems public entertainment. He shook his head. That's not how love works, Ianthe. That's how manipulation works. The word hit me like a physical blow. I'm not manipulating anyone. Then what would you call it? You orchestrated this entire situation to get a reaction from me. You chose the most hurtful way possible to express your dissatisfaction with our marriage. And now you're angry that I'm not playing the role you assigned me. I wanted to argue, but the truth in his words was undeniable. I needed to know you still cared. And destroying our marriage was the only way you could think of to find out. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Rafa's name lit up the screen, and I saw Caleb's jaw tighten. Answer it, he said quietly. What? Answer it. Let's all be honest about what's happening here. My hands shook as I declined the call, but the damage was done. Caleb nodded like I'd confirmed something he already knew. I have work to finish, he said, sitting back down at his desk. There's leftover Chinese food in the refrigerator if you're hungry. That night, I called my sister Lydia, desperate for someone to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. He's acting like I committed some terrible crime, I said, pacing around the living room while Caleb worked behind his closed office door. All I did was take a trip with a friend. Ianthe, Lydia said carefully, I saw the photos. That didn't look like a friendship. Whose side are you on? I'm on your side, which is why I'm telling you the truth. You posted pictures of yourself looking at another man the way you used to look at your husband. What did you think would happen? I thought Caleb would fight for me. I thought he'd realize what he was about to lose and try to win me back. And instead, I glanced toward the office door, where I could hear the soft sound of papers shuffling. Instead, he's organizing, like our marriage is just another filing project. Maybe that's his way of coping. Maybe he's protecting himself. From what? From you, Ianthe. From whatever you're planning to do next. The words stung because they rang true. I had been planning something, another trip maybe, or bringing Rafa here to the city. Something to force Caleb's hand, to make him fight for me. He doesn't get to just give up, I said weakly. And you don't get to torture him into loving you the way you want to be loved. Lydia's voice was gentle but firm. Either fix your marriage or end it, but stop playing games with both your lives. After I hung up, I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by the remnants of the life Caleb and I had built together. Wedding photos on the mantel, books we'd bought together lining the shelves, throw pillows I'd insisted on buying despite his protests that they were impractical. When had we stopped being happy? When had we become two people sharing space instead of sharing a life? My phone buzzed with another text from Rafa. Miss you, beautiful. When can we continue what we started? This time, I turned off my phone without reading the rest, but it was too late. Through the thin wall between the living room and his office, I heard Caleb make a phone call. Yes, this is Caleb Fenwick. I'd like to schedule an appointment for tomorrow morning if possible. 9 o'clock would be perfect. He gave our address, confirmed some details I couldn't quite make out, and hung up. I sat frozen on the couch, my heart hammering in my chest. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. What kind of appointment required our address? The kind that came to you. I barely slept that night, my mind racing through possibilities. Every creak of the house settling, every sound from the guest room where Caleb was sleeping, made my heart jump. When morning came, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Caleb was already dressed and drinking coffee in the kitchen when I stumbled out of the bedroom. He looked like he'd slept fine, which somehow made everything worse. "Morning," he said without looking up from his phone. "Caleb, we need to talk." "About what?" "About whatever's happening at 9 o'clock this morning." He glanced at the clock on the microwave. 8:30. You might want to get dressed." "What's at 9 o'clock?" "You'll see." The casual way he said it made my skin crawl. "This is ridiculous. Just tell me what's going on." "I think you know what's going on." He poured the rest of his coffee down the sink and rinsed the mug. "I think you've known for a while." I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him stop being so calm about whatever was about to destroy our lives. Instead, I rushed to get dressed, my hands shaking as I tried to apply makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes. At exactly 8:55, there was a knock at the door. I froze in the bathroom, mascara wand halfway to my lashes. Through the thin walls, I heard Caleb's footsteps crossing the living room, the sound of the door opening, voices in quiet conversation. "Mrs. Fenwick?" A woman's voice, professional and polite. "I have some documents for you." My legs felt like water as I walked to the front door. A woman in a business suit stood there with a leather portfolio, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Ottilia Fenwick?" "Yes." "You've been served." She handed me a thick manila envelope and a clipboard. "I need you to sign here acknowledging receipt." My hands shook as I signed my name, barely recognizing my own handwriting. The woman nodded professionally and left, her heels clicking down the hallway like a countdown timer. I stood in the doorway, holding the envelope, afraid to open it, but knowing I had to. Behind me, I heard Caleb moving around the apartment, the sound of a suitcase being zipped. "Aren't you going to open it?" he asked quietly. I turned to face him. He was standing by the couch with an overnight bag in his hand, dressed like he was going to work but carrying himself like a man who was walking away from everything he'd ever known. With trembling fingers, I opened the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. The words seemed to swim on the page at first, but gradually came into focus. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Irreconcilable differences. Equitable distribution of assets. Custody arrangement. Custody? I looked up at him, confused. "We don't have children." "We do have assets. We do have shared financial obligations. And we do need to figure out how to untangle 8 years of marriage." His voice was steady, but I could see the cost of that steadiness in the tightness around his eyes. You can't just end our marriage with paperwork." "I'm not ending it. You ended it in Miami. I'm just making it official." I didn't." But the words died in my throat because we both knew he was right. "I've moved the essential documents to my lawyer's office," he continued in that same calm tone. "Bank statements, insurance policies, the deed to the apartment, everything's been copied and filed appropriately." "Your lawyer? When did you get a lawyer?" "Last Monday, right after you got back from your trip." He adjusted the strap of his bag. "I'm staying at a hotel until we can figure out the living arrangements. My attorney will be in touch with yours about the details." "I don't have an attorney." "Then you should probably get one." I stared at the papers in my hands, the legal language swimming together into meaningless words. "This is insane. You're throwing away 8 years of marriage because I took one trip." "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm acknowledging what you already threw away." He moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I did love you. I loved you enough to work 60-hour weeks to give you the life you wanted. I loved you enough to ignore the signs that you were unhappy. I loved you enough to hope that things would get better on their own." "Then why won't you fight for us?" "Because you can't fight for someone who's already chosen someone else." He opened the door, then looked back at me one last time. "I hope Raphael makes you happy, Ottilia. I really do. You deserve to be happy." And then he was gone, leaving me alone with a stack of legal papers and the echo of the door closing behind him. I sank onto the couch, the petition scattered around me like the pieces of my life. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. He was supposed to fight for me, supposed to realize what he was losing and beg me to stay. Instead, he'd done exactly what I'd accused him of being: methodical, organized, and completely in control. My phone buzzed with a text from Rafa. "Hey beautiful, free for lunch today? I'm thinking we should make this thing official." I stared at the message, then at the divorce papers, then back at the message. Make what thing official? We'd had one weekend together, a few stolen kisses, some flirtatious texts. In my mind, it had been a grand romance, a passionate affair worth risking everything for. But looking at it now, in the harsh light of mourning and legal documents, it seemed small and tawdry, and not nearly worth the price I was about to pay. I called Lydia, sobbing before she even said hello. "He served me with divorce papers," I choked out. "He actually served me with divorce papers." "Oh, honey." Her voice was soft with sympathy and something else, something that sounded like she wasn't entirely surprised. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. I don't know anything. I thought he'd fight for me." "Maybe he thought you'd fight for him." The words hit me like a slap. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means maybe instead of running off to Miami with another man, you should have talked to your husband about what was wrong with your marriage." "You think this is my fault?" "I think you made choices, and now you have to live with the consequences of those choices." Lydia's voice was gentle but firm. "I think you wanted to have your cake and eat it too, and Caleb called your bluff." After I hung up, I sat alone in the apartment that suddenly felt too big and too empty. The silence was deafening. No sound of Caleb's typing from his office, no coffee maker gurgling in the morning, no quiet presence that I'd taken for granted for 8 years. I picked up my phone to call him, to beg him to come home so we could talk about this like adults. But when I scrolled to his number, I realized I didn't know what to say. What could I say? That I was sorry, that I'd made a mistake, that I wanted to try again? All of those things were true, but they were also too little, too late. The man who'd served me with divorce papers wasn't the same man who'd asked what I wanted him to say about my trip to Miami. That man had been hurt, confused, hoping against hope that we could find our way back to each other. This man had moved past hope into action. This man had made his choice just as clearly as I'd made mine. And now we both had to live with the consequences. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls with lawyers, awkward conversations with friends who'd seen the social media drama unfold, and the growing realization that my life as I knew it was over. Rafa, it turned out, was significantly less interested in me once he learned about the divorce proceedings. "That's heavy stuff, beautiful," he said when I called to tell him what was happening. "I'm not really looking for anything that complicated right now." "Complicated? You said you wanted to make things official." "I meant like, Instagram official, not divorce court official." The casual dismissal in his voice made my stomach turn. "Look, you're amazing, but I'm not ready to be anyone's rebound guy. Call me when you get your life sorted out." He hung up before I could respond, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. The man I'd risked my marriage for had just dumped me via a 3-minute phone call. I tried calling Caleb, but his number went straight to voicemail. I tried texting him, but got no response. It was like he'd vanished from my life as completely as if he'd never existed. The only communication came through lawyers, cold formal letters about asset division and custody of our shared belongings. Even our divorce was being handled with the same methodical precision that had characterized everything else about Caleb. "He's being very fair," my attorney told me during our first meeting. "More than fair, actually. He's not asking for alimony, he's not fighting you on the apartment, and he's willing to split the shared assets 50-50, despite the fact that he contributed significantly more to them." What does that mean? It means he wants a clean break, no ongoing financial entanglement, no reasons to stay in contact. He wants to end this marriage as simply and quietly as possible. The finality of it hit me like a physical blow. Can I contest it? Can I fight it? On what grounds? You admitted to the affair. You posted evidence of it on social media, and he's offering you a generous settlement. The lawyer leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Fenwick, I have to ask, what outcome are you hoping for here? I opened my mouth to say I wanted my husband back, wanted to fix our marriage, wanted another chance. But the words wouldn't come because we both knew it was too late for that. I didn't think it would end like this. How did you think it would end? I didn't have an answer for that either. The final hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in late October. I spent the night before lying awake, staring at the ceiling and thinking about all the things I should have done differently. I should have talked to Caleb about my unhappiness instead of seeking attention elsewhere. I should have fought for our marriage instead of trying to make him fight for me. I should have appreciated what I had instead of focusing on what I thought I was missing. But should have doesn't change anything, and Thursday morning came whether I was ready for it or not. The courthouse was smaller than I'd expected, more like a government office building than the dramatic setting I'd imagined. Caleb was already there when I arrived, sitting with his attorney and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He'd lost weight, I noticed. His suit hung a little loose on his frame, and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. For a moment, I wanted to go to him, to apologize for everything, to beg him to give us one more chance. But then he looked up and saw me, and the expression on his face stopped me cold. It wasn't anger or hurt or even sadness. It was the look of a stranger acknowledging another stranger in a waiting room. The proceedings were mercifully brief. The judge reviewed the paperwork, asked a few perfunctory questions, and declared our marriage officially dissolved. 8 years of shared life reduced to a stamp on a legal document and a case number in the court's filing system. That's it, I asked my lawyer as we gathered our papers. That's it. You're divorced. I looked around for Caleb, but he was already gone. His lawyer handed me an envelope and left without a word. Inside was a single sheet of paper with Caleb's careful handwriting. Ottilia, I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you find someone who makes you happy in all the ways I couldn't. I hope you learn to appreciate what you have before you lose it. I'm sorry our story ended this way. I'm sorry we couldn't find a way to fix what was broken, but I'm not sorry for refusing to fight for someone who didn't want to be fought for. Take care of yourself. Caleb. I stood in the courthouse hallway, reading and rereading those words as people moved around me like I was invisible. This was really it. This was how 8 years of marriage ended, not with shouting or tears or dramatic declarations, but with quiet dignity and a handwritten note. My phone buzzed with a text from Lydia. How did it go? It's over, I typed back. It's really over. I'm sorry, honey. Are you okay? I looked around the courthouse lobby, at the strangers dealing with their own legal dramas, at the security guards who'd seen this same scene play out thousands of times before. Was I okay? I don't know, I answered honestly. That afternoon, I went back to the apartment that was now mine alone and sat in the living room where this had all started. The space felt different without Caleb's presence, not just empty, but hollow, like something essential had been removed. I thought about calling Rafa, but I already knew how that conversation would go. I thought about posting something on social media, some cryptic message about new beginnings and finding myself, but the idea made me feel sick. Instead, I just sat there in the silence, surrounded by the remnants of a life I'd thrown away in pursuit of something I thought I wanted, but had never really understood. My phone buzzed with notifications from social media. Friends commenting on old photos, asking how I was doing, offering sympathy for my difficult time. But I didn't want their sympathy. I didn't want their attention. I just wanted to go back in time and make different choices. But time only moves in one direction, and choices have consequences. And some mistakes can't be undone no matter how much you regret them. As the sun set outside my window, I finally understood what Caleb had been trying to tell me all along. You can't manipulate someone into loving you the way you want to be loved. You can't threaten to leave and expect them to fight for you. You can't destroy something beautiful and expect it to remain intact. I had gotten exactly what I'd asked for: my freedom, my independence, my chance to find someone who would appreciate me the way I thought I deserved. The only problem was that I'd had to destroy everything good in my life to get it. And now, sitting alone in an apartment that felt more like a mausoleum than a home, I realized that what I'd really wanted all along was already mine. I'd just been too foolish to see it until it was gone. Caleb had loved me, quietly, steadily, without drama or grand gestures, but completely. He'd worked to provide for us, been faithful and loyal and present. He'd been everything a husband should be. I'd just been too busy looking for something else to notice. The divorce papers sat on my coffee table like a monument to my own stupidity. I picked them up and read through them one more time, seeing clearly now what I'd been too proud to see before. Caleb hadn't given up on our marriage. He'd simply refused to let me destroy him along with it. He'd protected himself the only way he could, by walking away with his dignity intact, by refusing to play the games I'd tried to force him into, by choosing his own peace over my drama. In the end, he'd been the stronger one, the wiser one, the one who'd loved enough to let go, and I'd been the fool who'd thrown away everything real in pursuit of something that was never anything more than an illusion. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from an unknown number. Saw the news about your divorce. Sorry it didn't work out. Hope you're doing okay. C. I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. There were 1,000 things I wanted to say, 1,000 apologies I wanted to make, 1,000 ways I wanted to try to explain or justify or undo what I'd done. But in the end, I just typed back, "Thank you. I hope you're happy." The response came quickly. "I'm getting there." And then nothing. No more messages, no more chances, no more hope of fixing what I'd broken. I set my phone aside and looked around the empty apartment one last time. Tomorrow I'd have to figure out how to build a new life from the ashes of the old one. I'd have to learn how to live with the consequences of my choices, how to move forward without the man who'd been my anchor for 8 years. But tonight, I just sat in the silence and mourned for everything I'd lost, everything I'd thrown away, everything I'd been too foolish to appreciate until it was gone forever.